We're making a game about a baby.
We're very excited by that kind of combination of a totally outlandish, ridiculous story that somehow finds its way to something that feels universal or highly relatable.
This face tracking stuff, it really feels like magic. You just feel like you're there. We knew we wanted to make another game, and Skybound was really supportive and, very early on, wanting to support a next game. The sophomore album is famously difficult.
I'm with Graham Parks, writer, creative director of Goodnight Universe and Before Your Eyes.
This is Oliver Lewin, who's my co-director on the game, as well as our producer, project manager, as well as the composer. I think at the beginning, we had a team and we were focused on face tracking, saying, okay, we want to do a game with this again. And there's like a certain just inherent magic to like blinking and something happens, and closing your eyes and something happens, and moving your head. And I think that we really quickly were like, there's a kind of a superpower, like more direct kind of wish fulfillment fantasy to be done with this tech.
That for me is like a very much our aha moment, or like the genesis of it all. Is like we had that kind of germ of psychic stuff that we wanted to do. And then I remember you wrote a version where it was like, discovering my psychic powers, growing up to become a teenager, and it was headed towards this adolescent, different version of psychic powers, and it had the baby, like the infancy discovery of the psychic powers, and then one day you were sort of like, well, actually, I think it should be this the entire game.
We kind of realized that it wasn't just a baby, but it was like this like hyper intelligent baby, this kind of like intelligent consciousness that is like stuck in a baby's body. That's what he feels like. Isaac is a character that can understand language and has all these almost adult wants and desires, but he thinks he needs to continue to pretend to be a baby so he doesn't concern his parents. And I think that sort of feeling of being a hyper-intelligent person stuck in a baby's body, that felt like it had just a lot of like emotional resonance. And I think that was another thing we realized about babies was, especially at 6 months, that pre-verbal age, you reveal sides of yourself that you wouldn't reveal around like an older kid. So that became really interesting to us, where you assume that a baby can't understand anything, but obviously we have this Isaac who's sort of an adult level intelligence who's inside of this baby, that we realize that while he has a secret, also his family members are inadvertently revealing their secrets to him, because they assume, well, it's not like he can understand. So they can almost be their truest self, the self that they're hiding from each other, around him, and ultimately it becomes a story about needing to find the bravery to reveal yourself to the people you love.
We're very excited by that kind of combination of a totally outlandish, ridiculous story that somehow finds its way to something that feels universal or highly relatable. And it's like everyone, at least on the team, felt a connection to that sense of like, sometimes, the hardest people to be honest with or be your true self with are the ones you're closest to. So I think once we found that, it was like, okay, we're locked in here.
Yeah.
We started developing and casting and everything.
We're making a game about a baby, but we wanted to make sure it didn't ever feel like a kid's game, or that it could be reduced in that sort of way. And we wanted to find a really unique tone for it. And I think that figuring out that there was going to be this narrator who's telling the story kind of from the future, you don't really know who the narrator, I mean, you know the narrator is Isaac, but you don't really know where he's telling the story from or where he's come to. Lewis Pullman, who voices Isaac, is the narrator of the story, I think is one of our closest friends, and he's just been a key collaborator and best friend for years and years. Lewis has this like vulnerability and a truth, and is really far from like an annoying kid's voice. And then my friend Pico Alexander, who plays Milo.
Yeah, the cast is something we're so proud of. We have a great villain played by Timothy Simons. We have Sarah Burns back, who was in Before Your Eyes. Carrie Kenny Silver plays your mother, and Al Madrigal your father, and then Tessa Espinola is your sister, who's kind of a key comrade in some of your perils.
It was amazing to bring her in, because she was, working with a lot of these very established actors, but she just really held her own in the most amazing way. And it was really fun, because we like to film them all in the same room, and I love to encourage improv, and that's why we love to work with funny actors.
The piece of casting that we took the longest time with, which we were just so over the moon about, was Beau Bridges coming in to be Angus, your grandfather.
Look at you. Aren't you just as cute as a button, you little guy?
We always knew that it was like a very important kind of relationship or mirroring between your main character, a baby, and his grandfather, who's on the other end of the age spectrum.
We knew we wanted someone with gravitas. And as soon as he gets on the mic, you know, I feel like we just kind of sat and we're like, okay, anything this man says is gets so much added aura to it.
Yeah.
And such a kind gentleman as well. Just an absolute dream cast. This face tracking stuff, it really feels like magic, and I still get that feeling. It's very disarming. It almost feels like live theater suddenly. You just feel like you're there, and you're being responded to, and it kind of just breaks, I think, it just breaks the barrier between, you know, audience and story.
Yeah, I mean, going back to that thing you were talking about of like babies, we were so kind of interested and compelled by a baby as a main character because of that thing of, you know, people talk like they're not around a little bit, but also they're these sort of silent observers. And we thought, well, how can a baby communicate? And then we were thinking about, okay, well, we can detect your laugh, you know, if you smile or if you frown.
That was a big one.
So maybe that's a form of communication. Like, let's go down that route. And that proved to be, you know, something really foundational to the design of the game.
Yeah, exactly, because a baby has a binary form of communication, really. It's like it's either going to laugh or it's going to cry. And so very quickly with the face tracking, we knew we could do smiles and frowns. And I was like, well, that's a no-brainer. The challenges of it are just like, we don't know what your lighting situation is. There's so many different head shapes. There's so many different eye shapes. There's glasses and no glasses. There's different webcams.
Yeah, and what's the difference between blinking versus closing your eyes for 1 second?
Yeah,
things like that you never thought you were gonna have to ponder so much. But once we really kind of leaned into the holding of your eyes closed and also like moving the axis of your head, that was kind of a challenge that we got really excited about.
I think that this game, it's really tied to experiencing the narrative, but we were always surprised when people would be like, I didn't play with eye detection and it's still amazing. This is just a really exciting interactive story.
This is a game where we really want to make sure if you play it with, you get the magic, and if you play it without, you're not missing out.
We found a really nice sweet spot where the game is very story-based, but there are also times in the game which are really about just the joy of play and the joy of being this baby, discovering his psychic powers. Because we always talked about there's going to be these gameplay set pieces. And so we kind of designed the game around these different gameplay set pieces.
Yeah, I mean, and going a little bit further with what those set pieces are, but also trying to think, well, what about those like lovely chubby little hands and how little they can actually do and how difficult it is to crawl. So some of this is just us kind of getting to have fun with getting in that baby's experience.
Yeah, our whole thing was like, well, if we spend a while in the game just really disempowering you and making it even hard to just literally crawl forward, we wanted to make you really feel excited by just being able to nudge a toy car across a room. And once you are able to start using these psychic powers, it's like a matter of scale. I feel like so many games sort of just go so big so quick, and for us, we always wanted to be like, and especially because of the tracking stuff, is like, let's focus you on these minute gameplay things and see if we can get you to really feel the magic of those things again, because so many of those things I feel like we're so used to, like, oh, of course I'm gonna press this button and some crazy
and with those scenes we got totally kind of trapped in a good way in that kind of that type of design too, where it would be like, you know, the idea of like, well, what if at that point you could reach out and grab something, like, whoa buddy, like don't get crazy with the abilities.
I think it's a story of feeling like there's a person inside of you that you're hiding that can apply to really everybody. It's like, I have my version of what the story's about, but every player is gonna kind of take their personal struggles and take their thing. And I think that central metaphor, again, of like, I kind of feel like I'm in hiding, and about the strength to sort of let yourself out, you know? I mean, the best thing would be people taking that to heart and it helping them and feel more seen and feel, I mean, that's
100%. I mean, I think for us, like for everyone on our team, it's like the nature of the responses we get in terms of how personal they are. And like that was what we loved with Before Your Eyes, of just like that very personal relating to the story. And that's sort of been the goal with Goodnight Universe.